Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the September Power Hour of the Renewable Heat Now campaign. My name is Lisa Marshall. I'm the Director of Organizing and Advocacy at New Yorkers for Clean Power, and very pleased to be your host tonight for the first part of the meeting. We have a great agenda for you this evening and excited to share with you. We'll share a little bit about our campaign in case anybody here is new to Renewable Heat Now. We're going to talk about the state energy plan. That is a process happening right now that's very important, and we want to make sure everyone is involved. We're going to give a little update on the All Electric Building Act, which probably most people here helped us to pass in 2023, and we have an update on that. We're going to give an update on the Empower Plus program, which is something we've been working on a lot this summer with Renewable Heat Now. And of course, the 100-foot rule, which is the piece of the New York Heat Act, our main legislation, our sort of cornerstone legislation that we've been working on. And we did pass one big piece of that this year, and it still remains for Governor Hochul to sign it. So we need to keep working on that until she has signed it into law. And then we'll turn this meeting over to our wonderful friend of Renewable Heat Now, Stephanie Doba from the Sierra Club. She is the volunteer leader who coordinates a wonderful team of folks to help people to write letters and place them in their local newspaper. And she's going to give a training, and we're actually going to write some letters tonight about some of these issues that are very current in our state. So we're actually going to be really productive tonight. Next slide, please. So Renewable Heat Now is a campaign in New York that focuses on the building sector. And the reason we focus on buildings is they are the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in New York. Most of those emissions come from burning fossil fuels in our buildings for heating, and some is the burning of fossil fuels in our buildings for cooking and water as well. And most of what we're burning is so-called natural gas or fracked gas, which is mostly made of methane. And the reason methane is such a concern is that not only are there emissions produced when we burn methane, but there's also methane that leaks all along the system from when it's fracked at the gas wells in Pennsylvania, brought along the pipelines throughout the state, and then to our homes. And it even leaks inside our homes, which causes health impacts. So it's bad stuff. It's bad for our health. It's bad for the planet. It's bad for the climate. And it's increasingly a system that is costing us more and more money when we know we want to move to cleaner, safer, and healthier types of heating, cooking, and hot water. And that's what our campaign is about. So we work with public education, legislation, and other kinds of policies other kinds of policy work on decarbonizing our buildings and making them a healthier and safer places for all of us to live, work, and play. Next slide, please. So I wanted to give you guys an update. We had a special power hour in August that was focused on this process that's happening in New York right now called the State Energy Plan. This is a process where the agency heads and a bunch of appointed people form a board, and the board is tasked with creating a plan that will steer New York's path for our energy goals for the next 15 years, so all the way from now until 2040. So this process kicked off last September, just about exactly a year ago. At the end of there was a comment period on the draft scope, and then the scope for the energy plan came out. And then over the summer, not that long ago, they released a draft energy plan. And unfortunately, it was pretty disappointing. So that plan is out now for comment, and we would like to encourage all of you to get involved in that process to make sure that the state hears from advocates for clean energy at these hearings and submits comments to the docket. Currently, the comments are all due by October 6th. And so we're going to put some information for you in the chat about the state energy plan. One is we will share with you the recording from the last power hour where we went over the state energy plan. We will share with you a recent teach-in that my organization, New Yorkers for Clean Power, hosted just this week. That covers more than buildings. It also covers the power generation sector and the transportation sector. And we have a comment tool for Renewable Heat Now that will ask you all to just fill out and send the little letter that has the comments on the building sector. If you're interested in the comment tool that we have for the other sectors, you can just let us know and we can share that with you. But this is a Renewable Heat Now call, so we're focusing on our buildings. So, but it's not enough to just make a written comment. It's very important to get lots of written comments filed, but we really need bodies in the rooms at these hearings. There's not that many hearings left, however, but there is a virtual hearing on September 30th. So it's on Zoom and you can sign up for that. The link's going to be in the chat. Or if you can get to Long Island, if you live in the vicinity of Long Island and you can get to SUNY Stony Brook on Monday the 29th, that's the last in-person hearing. So, but anybody can do the Zoom hearing anybody's on this meeting who could do this Zoom could do a virtual hearing. We have some tips on how to write your comment and some of the things to include. You'll have 2 minutes to speak at the hearing. And it's important sort of to have this public facing outcry to say this plan doesn't meet the moment. We're in a climate crisis. We need to uphold our state's climate goals. We need to move the clean energy transition forward, and we need to protect our most vulnerable New Yorkers, make sure all of their needs are met during the energy transition. So we have lots of more detailed comments that you can use to create your comment, and we really encourage you to get involved. Next slide, please. So all electric buildings. At the August Power Hour, we were able to share a pretty exciting update, which is that the Building Code Council, let me just backtrack for a second. In 2023, Renewable Heat Now really led the charge on passing what was called the All Electric Building Act. This means that new buildings built in New York, starting in January of next year for most buildings, and then 2029 for really big buildings, will be built without fossil fuel heating or appliances. This is extremely exciting. It is one of the key recommendations of our climate plan. It is one of the key recommendations of all the international, experts on how to move to clean energy and decarbonize our economy. And we were really excited that this passed. Of course, it was challenged in court, and last month that challenge was upheld, so it was not stopped in the courts. And we also had trouble getting the Building Code Council to incorporate this law into the new building code, but we did succeed with that too. So that's very exciting. But now, with just a few months away, the Home Builders Association, the fossil fuel industry are giving their last ditch effort to try to delay this law going into effect. And this came out last week with a big front page article in the Albany Times-Union and an op-ed saying that the cost of all electric buildings is too high, that it's going to exacerbate the housing crisis, that it's going to crash the grid. All of this, of course, is misinformation, exaggeration, but very scary and effective talking points. So we're going to want to make sure we fight back against that all the way until this law takes effect on January 1st. I will also say one of the good things in the draft state energy plan is they did strongly back the continuation of the start date of the All Electric Building Act. So they have not, they backtracked on many things in the plan, they did not backtrack on that. So as far as we know, we are still safely on our way to all electric buildings starting January 1st, but we do feel a lot of heat coming from the opposition. So I wanted to let you guys know that, and you might be hearing or seeing things, and we might want to spend some of our few words that we have when writing an LTE on making sure that we say how we support this law. We should support it. We should be proud of it. Another update. Another thing that's been under assault this summer is the Empower Plus program. This is the state's program where low and moderate income households get grants to get upgrades in their homes, like weather sealing, insulation, uh, sometimes safety things, light bulbs, and sometimes even heat pumps and heat pump hot water heaters, and other kinds of home energy upgrades. And this program has really taken off in the last couple of years. It's never been so successful as it is now. Contractors have hired more staff to keep up with demand and train them. It's a really great job creator, a job that can never be outsourced to another place. You have to do it in person in the home. These are well-paid jobs with room for promotion. And all of a sudden, the state has cut the legs out from this program, facing very steep um, cuts. They stopped all new applications for the program for this year. They told contractors and the energy hubs to expect a 30% cut in program funding available next year and a 30% cut the following year. So we've been pushing back on this. And one of the talking points for the state energy plan and some of the talking points for the LTEs are to talk about the Empower program and how important it is to invest in people's homes, in their health, in their lowering their bills and protecting the climate. So I wish I had better news for you on this call tonight. I feel like it's a bad news call, but but we are really making progress in our outcry about the importance of this program, and the state is feeling it. So we have to keep the heat on, so they can dig, as I like to say, dig under the sofa cushions and find more money for Empower. It's a long story, Heather, and I will try to explain it, but I want to make sure we have enough time for our training. So let's go to the next slide. But I do see your question. Okay, the 100-foot rule. If you've been with New Renewable Heat Now before, you know about the New York Heat Act, and then you know that we passed one of the three main pillars of the New York Heat Act, which is the 100-foot rule, ending the 100-foot rule. In a nutshell, the 100-foot rule says that anyone who lives within 100 feet of a gas line and wants gas service gets that gas hookup completely for free. And the cost of it is distributed amongst all the other gas ratepayers. So you might not notice particularly the cost of this on your bill, but it is probably about $20 a year of your bill goes to giving free hookups to expand the gas system at a time when we know that we need to contract the gas system. And when you add up all those costs, this says 177 million. That was like specific for 1 year, but it's really about 200 million a year that costs ratepayers to keep expanding the frack gas system that we know we have to get off of and make smaller. Instead, we're making it bigger. This makes no sense. So subsidizing an energy system we need to get off of makes no sense. We should be subsidizing the clean energy solutions that we all want and need. So we did get the legislature to pass this repeal of the 100-foot rule, which will save ratepayers $200 million a year and will help us put heat pumps and clean energy technologies on a level playing field for buildings with fossil fuels. So you might ask, well, if we're going to build all electric new buildings, why do we need this? Well, there's a lot of buildings, especially in Long Island, that are still heating with oil. And it's really important for those buildings to get off oil. It's expensive, it's dirty, you have to get it delivered. And so a lot of those people wanted to convert to gas, or let's put it this way, National Grid wanted to convert those people to gas. And what's a much better solution is converting them directly to heat pumps. And so with the 100-foot rule, that's really going to help make more sense. Okay, so how does this help us accomplish our goals? It is the first pillar of New York Heat. We are still seeing major gas expansion, even though we have passed the Climate Act in 2019. That's, 6 years ago. As I like to say, a child who was born the year we passed it is entering kindergarten now. or maybe even first grade. Utilities want to push this because building infrastructure is how they make their money. They don't make money selling us gas. They make money, they make a guaranteed rate of return on all gas infrastructure that they build, and they are making record profits. And they, of course, don't want that to end. So, of course, they're pushing us to keep doing this. It's taking money out of New Yorkers' pockets to give to the utilities to build more gas pipes and increase their profits. That makes no sense. So, as this last bullet says, it will remove a major financial incentive for buildings to hook up to gas and curb gas growth. All right, next slide. A nice update. One of the things we're doing is our sponsors, Assemblywoman Simon and Senator Liz Krueger, circulated a letter to their colleagues, and more than 50 members turned it around pretty quickly and signed it, and that was sent to Governor Hochul, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, asking her to sign the bill. Next slide. And we need to keep reminding Governor Hochul to sign the bill, and we will share a link in the chat for you to call and or email Governor Hochul. Next slide. And what else are we going to do to get Governor Hochul to sign this? You'd think it would be obvious that she would sign it. She herself put this legislation, the 100-foot rule, in her own budget priorities twice since she's been governor. But yet she has not signed it. She's, I think, running scared of doing anything on climate, but we need to keep the pressure on her. So we're organizing some press conferences around the state. We are going to write op-eds and letters to the editor, and we're doing that today. We're probably, if she doesn't sign it before then, we're probably going to have a big rally in December, either in New York City or Albany, or maybe both. We'll send you information, but think about that, marking off a little time the second week of December to join us for that. And we're probably going to have a call relay leading up to that big day. So we've done these tactics before. They are effective, and she can't ignore us if we keep on top of her. We also have another tactic that we're doing right now that you can all help with. Next slide. I think we forgot to put it on a slide. It is a letter to local elected officials. So these are your elected officials for your town, your county, your village, your city. And we've asked them to sign letters supporting us before, like with the New York Heat Act, we had over 100 local elected sign. So we have another letter like that. This one's about both the 100-foot rule and Empower Plus. And so I only want you to send this to your local elected official if two things. One, you have a relationship with them so that they know who you are, and you're going to ask them to sign it. And two, if they are a member of the majority party, I don't think we want the minority party to get wind of our advocacy. They're already working hard to defeat us, so we don't want to give them our talking points. So if your local elected official knows who you are and you will answer your text or your phone call or your email, then please send them this letter and ask them to sign by next Tuesday. Okay, so that is what we have on deck. I'm gonna make sure that we share the we have a Renewable Heat Now link tree that has all of our links on how to sign up for a hearing, how to make your comment for a hearing, how to send a comment to the State Energy Planning Board, and how to call the governor on the 100-foot rule. Those are all in that link, so we'll share that for you so we can take action. But I want to make sure we have lots of time for our letter writing portion. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our dear friend Stephanie Doba with the Sierra Club. Stephanie is the proud owner of some heat pumps. that she loves to talk about. And her team is very successful. I hope that some of you who love to write will not only write a letter tonight, but will consider joining Stephanie's team. They get letters published every single week all across the state on climate issues, and they're just really, really fantastic. So, Stephanie, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Lisa. Well, Lisa, I just have to toss a bouquet to you. You are one of my heroes. You're a heroine in this movement and a tremendous hard worker and inspiration to all of us. So thank you so much for having me, and welcome to everybody. I want to just introduce myself and tell you a little bit about what I did in my working life and what I'm doing with the Sierra Club, um, and walk you through what letters to the editor are all about and why we should even consider writing them. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I'm retired. I worked for 30 years at the New York Times. I wasn't a journalist, although I had dabbled in it in my youth. But I was in sales and marketing, circulation, excuse me, newspaper and education programs. So I have a deep love of journalism, and I have a love of writing style that's fun to read and compelling. After college, I couldn't wait to not write academic papers. So writing is something that I like to do, and I hope that I'll give you the tools and an opportunity to engage in some fun writing yourselves. Oh, by the way, I was at the hearing last night in Brooklyn, giving my own testimony about the draft energy plan, in which I did mention my heat pumps and my electric dryer, my electric water heater, my induction stove, and what else? And to top it off, I had National Grid come and take out my gas meter last month. Yay! So I'm walking the walk and talking the talk at the same time. And I can only say it's been a really wonderful experience getting rid of gas in my home. Much more comfortable. I'm saving money, and I'm doing the right thing, and it's great. So I can just add that. So let's start in. If I can have the next slide, please. So what we're going to do today is actually write letters to the editor. I've highlighted two papers, the Albany Times Union and the New York Daily News. Both of them publish letters from readers all over the state, although Albany prefers people not in New York City. And our objective is to urge Governor Hochul to do one or more of these things: sign repeal of the 100-foot rule, not postpone implementation of the All Electric Building Act, and make stronger renewable energy commitments in the state energy plan. So those are the outlines of what we're going to try to do today. Okay, next. So why letters to the editor? A lot of people think, well, this is a kind of an archaic form. It's sort of a legacy thing that has nothing to do with the social media world that so much of our advocacy and public debate seems to take place in. But I guess I'm a little old school, and they're still out there. Letters to the editor are read by public officials, or at least they come up in their Google alerts. It's important that we submit letters only to publications that will, first of all, that will publish letters to the editor. Not all of them do. And second, that they post letters online so that they're searchable. That if a staffer to Governor Hochul's environmental group is tracking what people are saying about her, it will come up. This is what we've been told by people who work for congressional staffers, for example. So elected officials pay attention to public opinion. And we also need to get out there and counter the misinformation and advocacy of fossil fuel interests and other groups supporting extending gas infrastructure. Accumulated letters are a powerful lobbying tool. The Sierra Club's guy in Albany, Roger Downs, will plop down a huge pile of them um, when he goes calling to try to persuade Governor Hochul's staff to more, encourage her to do X, Y, or Z. And finally, it's a very creative form of activism, especially when your letter gets published. It feels great, and we all need to take care of our mental health. Um, so I will say I forgot to mention my team works around the state. I have 5 co-leaders in different media markets who monitor uh, papers online for what we could respond to with letters. And we've been doing this for 10 years, and we get about 350 letters published every year. And we're always looking for new people to write and submit them. So, tossing that out there, if this appeals to you, absolutely get in touch with me. And I have my email address all over the place here. So, if you want to keep doing this, absolutely, we welcome your participation. Next slide. So, what this is really about is to help you develop a skill to write a letter that an editor is going to want to publish, because unless it's published, it's worthless. So these are the kind of tips that, if you think about, it's just common sense. You want something compelling to grab the reader or the editor with the first sentence. You want to kind of close it also with something strong. Technique that's often used if you read enough op-eds in the New York Times or even letters, the a good writer will start with something and kind of reprise it at the end. It gives it a nice, it sort of ties it up with a bow. Personal element, if you have something personal to interject, that always works very well. And I'll show you an example of that in one of the letters published letters we'll look at. So you're aiming for something that is compelling. You're not trying to make all your points. You don't want to be boring. You're not doing a laundry list of talking points here. You got to pick and choose just a couple of things to say to make something worth reading, and be persuasive. A lot of people don't remember to break their text into paragraphs. And hopefully, if it wants to be, an editor wants to publish it, they will do it. But nothing looks worse than this block of text. So that's just a little sort of housekeeping thing. Some of the publications require letters to respond to an article or opinion piece in their own publication, or they strongly prefer it, like the Albany Times Union. Even the New York Daily News. The New York Times requires it. We're not going to be writing to the Times today. It's too hard to get into, and it's like we've had letters in there. I personally have had letters in there, but it's not something that we do on a routine basis. So there's a style to use when you write these things. You refer to the letter by its headline and date, and you can see an example there. This is just sort of the term of art, of how to reference the article. Now often there's no relevant article to which to respond, but we use what we call a pivot, and this is something that you might have to do with the regional publications that I'm going to, if anybody lives in those areas, or with the New York Daily News. There isn't any particular article in the Daily News yesterday, today, this week that lends itself to a response on our issues. So you could start from something that Trump is doing. Everything this week, for example, this past week has been the Charlie Kirk assassination, and now the Jimmy Kimmel being pulled off the air. There's a way to comment on that and then say, but there's other things going on in the world, and here's one of them, and that's how you sort of make a pivot. You can also you can start from all the horrible news that we get about Trump cutting the federal government and environmental programs and climate programs here in New York. We need Governor Hochul to stand up to him and blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of the art form of the pivot. And we always want to include a call to Governor Hochul by name so that the letters it'll come up in her staff's Google Alerts. We're taking that on faith. Remember, the first audience you have is the letters editor. They're going to want to publish this. It's got to be something that's catchy, and they'll say, oh, our readers are going to like this, or something that makes it worthwhile to put in the paper. Big, big, big ground rule. Never submit the same letter to more than one publication. The papers with sort of a, well, who has more ethics will ask you if you've submitted to any other publication, and others, most of them can't, they don't have enough staff to sort of follow up in detail, but it's just a ground rule of the way the game is played. Next slide, please. So there's a kind of a format, again, so that it gets to the right place and looks good. The subject line, if you're sending by email to a letters editor email box, the subject line should be like a little headline, something that catches the attention of the editor. The body of the letter should begin, it should be in the body of your email. Never, never, never send an attachment because of the danger of viruses. They probably won't even open it. So the body of your letter is in your email that says to the editor. So you write your letter, and then at the end, you always put your full name, full address, and phone number for verification. So if your letter is published, only your name and your town will appear. And you don't have to add these extraneous kind of pleasantries. So I'd like, if you submit one tonight or when you get around to it, please BCC me so that I can enter it in the log that I keep with my team and check to see if it's been published. And I have subscriptions, digital subscriptions to all these publications, thanks to the Sierra Club Atlantic chapter, because it adds up. And that's the only way you can really do work like this as a team is with paid subscriptions. And because I worked in circulation marketing at the New York Times at the time we launched digital subscriptions, in 2010, 2011, there's no way I'm going to try to cheat newspapers of the subscription revenue. Next slide, please. So there are questions, and I think we're going to answer them. How, Lisa? Are we going to save them to the end? Or how do...
I think we have time to pause now, and you can take Carol's question and Alexandra's question.
Okay.
See them, or do you want me to read them?
Please, you could read them for me.
Okay, so Alexandra asks, can you remain anonymous when you submit a letter to the editor?
Never. No. They won't even consider it.
Okay. And Carol says, how much do you have to change the letter to send the same topic to more than one publication? Is it okay to use the same wording on the talking points if you open and close with different sentences?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure you're going to have a lot of publications to send your letter to. And I'll talk about that. In general, except for the Albany Times-Union and the New York Daily News, you have to live in the area, in the media market of the publication you're writing to. So if you live in Brooklyn, you can't send a letter to, the Kingston Wire or to someplace in Long Island. If you live in New York City, the Newsday, for example, they won't consider it. That's one reason you put your address. And we don't ever lie. That's the other thing. You have to have some, some boundaries here. So it's kind of unlikely that you will have the opportunity to submit a similar letter all over the place. And so that's my answer to that. As we know, newspapers have contracted both in number and what they will publish. One of the unfortunate things is that the USA Today network of 11 papers in New York State no longer publish letters to the editor. They do publish op-eds. Anshul Gupta, the wonderful Anshul, who I think is with us, he is a master at op-eds. And also these op-eds or opposite editorial or commentary viewpoint pieces that are longer than letters, frequently they require a sort of an affiliation or a title with an organization for the publication to consider them for that type of space. So for
Stephanie,
example,
oh,
yes,
sorry to interrupt. Can you just explain the difference between an LTE and an op-ed to everybody?
yes, thank you. Letter to the editor. They're short. You'll see here on this slide, 250 words is kind of standard limit. Uh, some of them are longer, but most of them keep you to 250 words. Op-ed or longer opinion piece, they can be 500, 600, 700 words. And my team does not do those. We leave those to representatives of organizations. Like Anshul has, as I said, he's a master, absolutely masterful at writing these, and also getting them, placed in publications that receive wide readership. So he's had a lot in the USA Today papers in past years, which has been really terrific. So that's the difference. Does that answer the question?
Yes,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. Okay, good. Is there another one?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Oh, Carol,
So,
sorry, I didn't.
Carol.
Carol says, can I send it to the statewide and the local paper?
Yes, if you have one, but what is your local paper? If you'll let me know, I can
The
maybe
Ithaca
get back
Journal.
to you.
It's the
Pardon?
her paper is the Ithaca Journal,
Oh,
but
Ithaca
also
Journal.
sometimes lives in
Ithaca
New York
Journal.
City.
Ithaca Journal. I have Ithaca Journal is the USA Today paper, I believe. Maybe not. I have when we get to the regional papers, there is an Ithaca paper that will take letters to the editor. So when we get to the regional papers, you'll see how to submit to it. Um, I would, I don't know if it's worth it to send it to two places, to be honest. I would just focus all your energy on Ithaca because they probably publish more than the Albany Times Union does, for example. So I would go that direction. Does that help? Okay. So the two statewide publications here, Albany Times Union, they only have 2 or 3 letters per day, 5 days a week. But you really should reference an article or opinion piece in their own publication. That's what they favor. And what we have coming up is one of those that you can respond to. The New York Daily News, they publish a dozen letters every day. And they like short, kind of cheeky, fun letters. So I'm encouraging anybody, I noticed quite a number of people downstate. That's where you should focus your energy tonight on the New York Daily News. They have a very liberal editorial policy, by the way, when it comes to the environment and climate. So they're always publishing a lot of our stuff, which is great. Next slide, please. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is to read a published letter. This appeared today from a member of our team. And you can see how this is not the headline she gave her email. They will put their own headline on it. But I can read it a little bit to get you started. As I tried to enjoy an upstate New York summer that was far too hot and dry, columnist Fred Lebrun is talking about refurbishing gas-powered generators. And then she quotes the headline and date that the Times Union published that piece. The burning of fossil fuels like natural gas for energy is causing these hot, dry, and uncomfortable conditions. So she goes on to talk about the CLCPA and other things. So she's making a case to ditch fossil fuels and that New York needs to transition to clean energy. So she's got a really good opening that's personal. It's kind of, puts you in her shoes as she's trying to enjoy the weather. The one thing she forgot to mention Governor Hochul by name. So sometimes you get, the letter starts flowing and you forget, but that is something we really, really want all our letters to do. So that if you choose to write to the Albany Times Union, that's an example of the letter that's been published. And if you do write to them, there is the email address to send your letter. And I would like if you BCC'd me so I can log it in and check to see if it's been published. The Albany Times Union can take anywhere from a week to a month before publishing letters. It's pretty wild. Next slide, please. Here is a sample. Oops. Okay, so here's an article from the Albany Times Union. We left off the date. This appeared on September 12, and its headline was All Electric Mandate Will Exacerbate the Housing Crisis. So this is something that you can respond to in your letter. And you can start any way you want, but at some point you can either start the quote around the headline of the letter and then the date, and talk about how you disagree with this and why we need the All Electric Building Act. Again, keep it to 250 words. If you have heat pumps yourself, for example, that would be a great, or an electric anything, you could talk about that and how wonderful it is. Do make it personal if you can. And then wrap it up. It doesn't have to be as long as 250 words, but that's the max. I don't know, this is abridged, obviously. This was a long piece. This was an op-ed or a longer opinion piece. So it kind of goes on, and I believe you don't really need to see the whole thing. He goes into a lot of points that you would not want to try to rebut everyone. That's another trap you don't want to fall into with a letter. Of what you're responding to an opponent like this, you don't want to try to rebut every single thing in their piece. You just want to talk about how important it is that we keep the long game in mind, which is the climate crisis, and it will, in fact, make homes more comfortable, more affordable, and Governor Hochul needs to stand firm and not delay implementation of this law, which is in her power to do, right, Lisa? Okay, so next slide.
If you're talking about, yes, I don't exactly know what legal mechanism she would use to keep this law from starting on January 1st, but my understanding is that if there are sort of levers she could pull to delay.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know what those are.
Okay, we're not sure, but we need her to sign it. Oh, she could
Oh,
not
no.
sign it.
No. This is
Oh
the
no,
case.
this is signed. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Well,
Yeah, of course.
in this piece, I believe he also talks about the 100-foot rule as well as the All Electric Building Act. So the All Electric Building Act, she needs to just do nothing and let it go into effect on January 1st
Right.
as it's signed. But the 100-foot rule she needs to sign, and he addressed
Right.
both things in his piece, I believe.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next slide. Okay, whoop, went the wrong way. Okay, the New York Daily News. I'd like you to take a moment and read this letter, which is very, very different. And you'll see that it doesn't respond to anything it doesn't quote the article in the Daily News. I'll just read it. Trump doesn't want to do the wind thing because he thinks wind turbines are big and ugly, obviously not competing in the same beauty pageant as gas plants and smokestacks. And it's kind of catchy, right? So she goes on to make all sorts of arguments, for why wind is the right answer and gas turbines are not, obviously. And she calls on Governor Hochul. So far, Governor Hochul has stood up to Trump and saved Empire Wind. Its intended port in Brooklyn isn't on the scrap heap. But as we've seen, Trump is unreliable. Hochul must be ready to stand up to him again. This is a good technique to use when you're confronted with writing a letter, for example, to the New York Daily News, that you don't have any particular news piece that's timely to respond to. So I would encourage you to glom onto that little trick. And again, there's how to submit it. And if you BCC me, I would be able to track it. Next slide, please. There is a next slide. Maybe there's no next slide.
For the next part of this, we're going to look at your document. So I'm pulling it up.
Okay. Okay.
Bear with me a moment.
And people will be able to go back and see this material during the time they're writing the letters here. So obviously you have to go back and look at some of these slides.
And everyone see that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So okay. Thank you, Jen. So here's the kind of hook for a news hook that you might want to use for the New York Daily News, looking ahead to Climate Week in New York City. No other city seemed to do it, but it's a big deal in New York City. It is at the same time the UN is meeting, although it's not a climate meeting per se. So it's something you might want to allude to because, by the time the letter might be in print or online, Climate Week will have begun. So that makes it a little more timely. And again, I'm suggesting a pivot of referring to everything that's been going on nationally, which has just blown all other news off the front page apparently. But how to make the so-called pivot. So that's that. And I do want to go into the regional publications too. I looked that, yeah, here we go. So I had scrolled through the chat. I didn't see anybody from the Hudson Valley, but the Finger Lakes Times is something that covers Ithaca and is liberal in what they publish. So I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was who asked, can I submit to the Ithaca Journal? I think it's the USA Today publication and they may not take letters. I would direct your letter to the Finger Lakes Times because, or Ithaca Times, they seem to publish a lot of letters online. So I would do that. Then the Rochester area, pardon?
We have a question in the chat from Betta. She is in the Hudson Valley and she asks, do you have the Daily Freeman?
Yes, it's harder to get into though. They don't publish that many, and we do submit to them. The Kingston Wire is relatively new, and they publish everything apparently. So I would start there. That's why I didn't put the Kingston Daily Freeman up. But if you want to participate again, do this again, absolutely. Do the Daily Freeman as well. And Hudson Valley One is another one that accepts a lot of material. And in a sense, there's no greater value to being in a larger versus a smaller paper, because if it's online, everybody could see it, no matter which publication it is. I don't, so we're sort of open to smaller publications as long as their stuff is online. And then in the Rochester area, Lockport Journal publishes a lot of our stuff, as does the Buffalo News. Doesn't mean that everything we submit gets published, by no means, maybe half. So yeah. So if you are in one of these areas, please do consider writing to them. And again, you're not responding to anything in their publication unless you happen to subscribe to it or can look at it. But I can kind of guarantee there's nothing much climate related right now going on. These are also publications that don't insist on stuff being hyper local. Some of the publications don't consider letters unless they're on very, very, very local topics, which is really hard to crack. So that's why I picked out these particular ones. They're a little bit somewhat easier to get into or more liberal in their letters policy. Is that all I have? Jen, what else do I have? These are, again, this is the different format of what, here's a Buffalo News article. If anybody's in the Buffalo area, thank you for bringing that up, Jen. Anybody in the Buffalo area? You raise a hand. Anywhere, Western New York. This is an article you could respond to. Again, you pivot. Okay, so that's what I have. Are there any other questions? Now, I do want to say if people, I think we're going to allow time for people to actually write their letter. Or you can, if you want to draft it and send it to me and have me check it out, I'd be happy to do that. Carol has a question.
Let's see. I can probably unmute you, Carol. Let me find you. So we are right up to 8 o'clock, and we're going to stay on this Zoom for the next half hour and have a little what we call a we work, where we're going to work on our own letters. We can share them with Stephanie even right now for feedback. Anshul's here. He is also great at reading your letters and making suggestions and edits. If you work in a Google Doc, you can share. The best thing though is to pick which paper you want to submit to first and then find out what their requirements are and then write to their requirements. So wait, let me see. I don't think I can unmute you. I'm probably.
I think I am unmuted.
Oh, you are unmuted. Okay.
Yeah, you did it. And I managed to find the button to click and accept it. First, I wanted to encourage people to write them now while you have Stephanie and others here. It really helps to have somebody to bounce them off. So thank you for being here to do it. I had a title, I was a county legislator, so I actually got my letters published. And it's always really fun and you really have to keep them more crisp. And it's easier to write longer ones, and then it takes more time to go back and make them shorter. But my question had to do with, but I encourage you to do it because it's surprising. You don't get them published every time, but it's surprising if you write a decent one and go back, sit on it overnight and go back and shorten it a little bit, how often you can actually get them to take your letter. So I encourage you to do it. It just feels really good, and it gives you a conversation starter with people, who are your apolitical friends and family too, to tell them you got a letter published. What was my question? It was up there. So this fall we've got the governor has come back at us with, 3 different fossil fuel things that we're upset about. The pipelines that are coming back, the lack of delivery on the CLCPA, the energy plan, the utilities that, they're letting more fossil fuels go back into utility rates in a bigger way. The advisability about writing about the larger topic, fossil fuels, what are you doing, Governor Hochul, versus, that's a topic in and of itself, and mentioning them all, that's enough of a letter, versus picking one of them. It's hard to pick one. The New York Heat Act, we compromised to the compromise, and now you haven't even signed it. That's the one that's near and dear to my heart because my organization that I've been president of is, works on utility rate cases. So that's the one I'd focus on personally. But I'm also just upset about the whole approach of fossil fuels that she's bringing them back. I don't know which to do. What do you think?
Well, it really doesn't matter. The point is just to get her name in there and, ask her to do one of the 3 things that is on our priority list, that Lisa put up. That's what I would suggest, just as, just something that's readable. If you're passionate, just something that's going to get published and get Hochul's name in there and ask her to do one of those things. Boom. So these are the talking points that Lisa put together. So it's more background than it's more than you need to write a good letter, and the danger is don't get lost in the weeds. The big ask is the state energy plan needs to be much stronger on renewables and not kick the can down the road. Gas infrastructure. As I testified last night, and I said, uh, gas infrastructure we build now is going to be with us for decades, decades. You know, so we have to put a stop to it.
So yes, the talking points are definitely more than you need. I put talking points on the energy plan. I put talking points on the 100-foot rule. I put talking points on the All Electric Building Act and how important it is. You can pick and choose or combine these topics as you need. The link so that you can read this on your own computer is in the chat. We'll put it there again. Oh, Jen just did. And you can actually create a new page at the end of this and start drafting right in this document if you want to. Just put your name and the publication, where you live, and start drafting. We can all draft in the same document if you want to.
Yeah, I think we ought to. Yep.
Go
Sorry.
ahead, Steph. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think we should sort of let everybody start writing. And if you need a reference about, well, where do I send it? I like, where was that in the slides? We'll catch up with you later on that. Okay.
Awesome. Heather, are you going to do the Star Gazette?
Well, I don't know. I'm feeling a little insecure at the moment about what I would write. So I'm not sure. Did you want to do the Star Gazette?
Well, I would, if you're not, I am, but I would rather you did it, but I can help you also. So if you want to look through this and let me know. I have a letter drafted, but it's an op-ed. So, all right, I'm gonna mute myself. I'm gonna give people just piece to write. I can message with you. I can text with you, Heather, if you want. And
I was
we want-
also just going to add a quick idea too that Stephanie mentioned that I forgot to put in the slides, but anything that you write for these letters, you could also just email to Governor Hochul on her comment form, so we can put that for you. Or you could use it as your state energy plan testimony. Even if your letter isn't published, you can use the content in other places.
That's exactly right. And everyone can testify at the virtual hearing coming up. All right. So we're gonna do you want to just unshare so we can see each other if we want to? And everyone has access to the doc. So you can read through the talking points. We're also going to share the take action, the link tree again. And please remember to submit a comment for the state energy plan. The link to do that is in the link tree. And to sign up for the state energy plan hearing if you can. All right, I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to work on my letter now. And please just raise your hand or put something in the chat and we'll keep monitoring until 8:30.
And thank you all so much for joining us. And thank you so much, Stephanie, for just sharing your wealth of information with us. Just appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for putting my Word doc into beautiful slides.
You're an inspiration. One of the favorite emails I get in my inbox each week is Stephanie's email saying how many letters got published each week. It's very exciting.
Oh, yes, and I would be happy to add other people to that. My weekly kudos, I call it. Yeah, because volunteers need applause.